of all the metrics that can be used to indicate the quality of software production, I've found none more valuable than user story velocity. That shouldn't be confused with the story burn down or with the story point or estimate velocity. This is simply a measurement of how many user stories were completed on average for the past 5 iterations. It gives you a good idea of the pace at which a team is delivering. It ignores stories that were incomplete at the end of an iteration or removed from commitment. It just simply looks at what actually got done. Initially, when you put that into place, however, that metric is not so much to find out how well a team is doing, but just to simply get that measurement in place before you start making improvements in their quality of the work that they do. Why is it not a very accurate indicator right up front when you first put the metric in? Well, that's because for most teams and for most organizations, the definition of what a user story is similar to the definition of what a vehicle is. Vehicle could describe anything from a tricycle to an 18-wheeler. And user story could be used to describe anything from a task to an epic. So just measuring each user story that comes through isn't very valuable, but you will start seeing that number change and improve over time, and the quality of the team's productivity improve over time as you start getting better at defining what a user story really is. Let's say that I was a cabinet maker and I was really good at making cabinets, and a lot of people used me for making cabinets, and they would come to me with all kinds of different problems with cabinetry, and I was able to figure it out and get it built for them. Let's say there's a couple who are having a house built, and as part of that, they're going to need cabinetry. So they want to come and consider using me for their cabinetry. Now, this couple has sat down at the kitchen table and maybe brought out their yellow pad and pen and come up with some really good ideas and documented them down: sizes, shapes, wood colors, fixtures, height, depth, all this kind of stuff for everything from the laundry room to the kitchen, the bathrooms, and even the garage. They've come up with all these different cabinetry ideas they want for their house. When they were out for dinner eating, they get an idea and put it down on a napkin, just a quick note on a napkin about maybe one aspect of the cabinetries being built. Maybe while they were at their desks individually, they came up with ideas, so they put them on little Post-it notes, and they compile all of these into a manila folder of all these individual requests for cabinetry, individual aspects of it. And they come into my office, and I sit down at the table with them. We open their manila folder, and I examine each individual piece of paper in detail, ask lots of questions so I really understand what they're asking for. I think in my mind what it's going to take to do that, and I come up with an estimate for each one of them individually about what the cost is of that particular thing that they're asking for on the cabinetry, and both in time and money, what that expense is going to be. And so based on that, I come up with an estimate. Would you recommend me as their cabinet maker? Gosh, I wouldn't. I'd say head for the door. Get them out of there as quickly as possible. It's not smart. That guy's not professional. Let's say that they walked in with their manila folder, and I turned around, and off the shelf I pulled off a couple of forms, and I had them detailed there the way that I needed the information so that I knew I could make a reliable estimate of cost and effort and make sure I could deliver quality to them. And we get out their manila folder, we go through each piece of paper, and I do ask those clarifying questions, but I ask them in order to restate what they're asking for in the way that I need it. Okay, so I'm not now relying on them to describe for me the best way they know how, but I'm describing it the way I know I need it described. And once I do that, then I have in mind my suppliers, my schedule. I know I've combined the different requirements sometimes in those forms, and maybe I've split them up into smaller pieces, but now I have a very good idea exactly what's going to need to be delivered, and I can make a very reliable estimate of effort and cost, financial cost. I'd say, yeah, go ahead and use those folks. That guy behaves in a very professional way. He knows what he's doing. He breaks down the information and he's professional about what he does. I think that in our industry, and I don't know when this happened, maybe it was at the very start, as development engineers, as software developers, as professionals, we've abdicated the responsibility for the quality of the requests being made to us. Instead of taking those requests and holding off on commitment until they meet our standard of the quality of a user story or a request or requirement, we've just kind of worked with whatever's given us, assuming that the product owner, the BA, knows what a good story is. So obviously, we just got to take what they give us and do the best they can with us and deliver what they want. We'll use the acceptance criteria and everything will be fine. Okay, we've abdicated our responsibility, and that's on us. That's not on the product owners. It's not on the BAs. It's not on the Scrum Masters. It's on us as software development engineers and testers. Okay, so that metric, by the way, will change user story velocity as a team gets better at truly refining the request itself, not using refinement and grooming of user stories to be a time for us to discover what they really are asking for and can we really do it and thinking the solution through, but instead using that time to refine the request itself. Now, most software development engineers will say, I don't even know what to ask. I'm with you. Let me tell you how I ended up on this journey. I was working for a little company, startup company in Seattle, Washington. And I'd been in the industry for years. And I was in kind of a lead position. And it was very common through my career in Agile for us to be in a retrospective meeting and to have somebody say at some point that the reason we didn't finish a user story or an effort was that it was too big. Okay, that was common. And we all knew that. And so we'd say, well, it's too big. He's got to get it better next time. And so if you get the user story down to a reasonable size, then we can deliver it. The product owner did something I will never forget, and it sent me off on this journey, and I'm so grateful to him for it. He stopped. He closed his notebook computer. He pushed it back. He grabbed a yellow pad and a pen. He sat forward in his chair, and he looked at all the development engineers, and he said, how can I do better next time? What do I need to do different? And to our shame, we were all left looking at each other and staring off into space, and our answer was, I don't know, but it was too big. And for me, that didn't sit right. I didn't like the fact that I could not describe for him exactly what made it too big. What was it that I was seeing that made it too big, and how could it have been improved? I didn't like that. And so through the last couple decades now, I have been on this journey of developing for myself and helping to teach other people a way to truly refine the user stories, expose what it is about it that makes it too big and what could be done, how you could split it up and define it in a way that gives us more granular stories and a more consistent throughput. That metric of user story velocity, you will see that improve almost immediately when a team begins applying good steps of user story refinement. You'll see efforts that were actually in Epic split up into multiple stories. And so maybe even the same or a little less work will come through, but the number of stories will increase per iteration. And then shortly after that, now that you get a more consistent size of story, the business now will be able to estimate much more reliably when features will be done. They could do much better planning with reliable productivity that's coming out of a team simply because the team is taking better responsibility over the definition of the user stories. How does a team implement that? Well, I'm going to share several different things over the videos that I do on the steps I use for refinement. But initially, the team needs to at least make an agreement, a team agreement that they put down in their definitions of ready that says this is the definition of a user story ready for commitment. What that tells everybody outside their team is we'll consider doing anything as long as it meets our definition of a user story that's ready for us to commit to. Otherwise, we won't. And then they can start adding to that the criteria that they use to define that. That also makes it easier for the product owner in the BA. They know what to put in their user stories, how to lay it out, what to consider to make sure that it truly is ready for that team to commit to. So they're improving their quality of work. The team's improving the quality of work to which they commit. Ultimately, that's going to result in an improvement in the quality of the work that they deliver. And the business is going to experience a much higher quality of planning and throughput and features delivered and releases and things like that. So my hope is that you do reconcile yourself to a very good approach to user story refinement and to definitions of a user story ready for commitment.